Imagine a time when chaos reigned and courage was rare. In a patriarchal society, one woman rose to lead an entire nation to victory. Her name was Deborah, a prophetess, judge, and warrior of ancient Israel. This is not just the story of a strong woman, it's the story of how faith, wisdom, and obedience to God can defy every societal expectation. What shocking truths about Deborah's leadership might you have missed? Stay tuned as we uncover the incredible story of this remarkable biblical figure. The land of Israel was a place of turmoil and despair. For 2 decades, the nation suffered under the cruel oppression of Jabin, the king of Canaan. His general, Sisera, was infamous for his brutality and military prowess. Sisera commanded a mighty army equipped with 900 iron chariots, an unparalleled technological advantage at the time. These chariots struck terror into the hearts of the Israelites, rendering them powerless against the might of Canaan. This dark chapter in Israel's history was not just a tale of military dominance, it was the consequence of the nation's disobedience to God. The people had turned away from their covenant with the Lord, worshiping foreign gods and abandoning the commandments that had once set them apart as a chosen nation. Their rebellion led to their oppression, a cycle of sin and suffering that played out repeatedly throughout the book of Judges. Yet, even in their despair, the Israelites cried out to God for deliverance. Their prayers ascended, mingled with tears of desperation. It was in this context of hopelessness that God raised up an unexpected savior, Deborah. Deborah was a prophetess and the only female judge recorded in the Bible. Her role was unprecedented in a patriarchal society where leadership was almost exclusively reserved for men. She was known for her wisdom and discernment, sitting under a palm tree between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim. People from all over Israel came to her for judgment, seeking her guidance in disputes and her prophetic insight into God's will. But Deborah was more than just a judge. She was a beacon of hope in a time of spiritual and moral decay. She held fast to her faith in God when others faltered, and her leadership stood as a stark contrast to the fear and complacency that had gripped the nation. One of the most shocking details about this period was the absence of male leaders willing to rise against Sisera and his army. The men of Israel were paralyzed by fear, unwilling to risk their lives to confront the oppressors. It was Deborah who stepped into the void, answering God's call to lead her people in a time when courage seemed to have vanished. Deborah's role as both a prophetess and a judge was a testament to her unique relationship with God. She did not seek power or authority for herself, but acted in obedience to the divine mission entrusted to her. Her leadership was not marked by arrogance, but by humility and a deep reliance on God's guidance. As the cries of the people reached a crescendo, Deborah knew that action was required. God's plan for deliverance was in motion, and she was the chosen instrument to ignite the spark of hope and courage in the hearts of her people. Israel's darkest hour was about to give way to a dawn of divine intervention. Little did they know, their deliverance would not come through conventional means, but through the unwavering faith and wisdom of a woman who dared to trust in the power of God. As Deborah sat beneath the shade of her palm tree, she received a divine revelation that would change the course of Israel's history. The voice of the Lord came to her with clarity and purpose, revealing a strategy to break the yoke of oppression that had strangled Israel for 20 years. This wasn't just a message of hope, it was a call to action. "Summon Barak, son of Abinoam," the Lord commanded. Barak, a warrior from Kedesh in Naphtali, had the potential to lead an army against Sisera, but he had not yet stepped forward. Deborah's task was to relay God's plan to him and stir him into action. Barak arrived, perhaps skeptical, perhaps apprehensive, But he listened as Deborah delivered the divine instructions. The Lord, the God of Israel, commands you, go, take 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zebulun, and lead them to Mount Tabor. I will lure Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, with his chariots and troops to the Kishon River, and give him into your hands. It was a bold and audacious plan. The iron chariots of Sisera were the epitome of military dominance, and Barak knew the odds were stacked against him. Yet, the promise of victory came with the weight of divine authority. Still, fear and doubt clouded his mind. Barak's response was a surprising one. If you go with me, I will go, but if you don't go with me, I won't go. His hesitation revealed his lack of confidence, not just in himself, but also in his ability to fully trust God's promise. Barak needed the reassurance of Deborah's presence, a tangible reminder of God's guidance in this daunting mission. Deborah's reply was firm but tinged with understanding. Certainly I will go with you, but because of the course you are taking, the honor will not be yours, for the Lord will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman. This prophetic declaration was both a rebuke and a foretelling of the unconventional victory that awaited Israel. The scene shifts as Deborah and Barak begin rallying the tribes of Naphtali and Zebulun. Deborah's unwavering faith becomes the catalyst that inspires the people to rise from their despair. She speaks words of encouragement, reminding them of God's faithfulness in times past and his power to deliver them once again. Barak, now bolstered by Deborah's presence and leadership, assembles an army of 10,000 men. They march toward Mount Tabor, each step a testament to their collective decision to trust in God's plan despite the odds. This chapter of the story highlights an often overlooked detail: the interplay of faith and fear. Barak's reluctance and Deborah's steadfastness illustrate that even in the face of doubt, God can work through imperfect vessels. The Lord doesn't require flawless faith. He honors obedience, even when it's hesitant. The stage is now set for a confrontation that will defy human logic and reveal the undeniable hand of God. The Israelites march forward, not with the confidence of seasoned warriors, but with the fragile hope that the God of their ancestors will fight for them. The air was heavy with tension as Barak and his army of 10,000 men stood atop Mount Tabor. Below them, the vast army of Sisera spread out like an ominous wave of destruction. The sun reflected off the iron-clad chariots, numbering 900, creating a dazzling but terrifying sight. These chariots were the ultimate symbol of Canaanite dominance, swift and unstoppable on open terrain. Barak's men, armed with little more than basic weapons, seemed hopelessly outmatched. But Deborah's voice cut through the fear. Standing beside Barak, she spoke with unwavering confidence. Go. This is the day the Lord has given Sisera into your hands. Has not the Lord gone ahead of you? Her words, filled with divine authority, ignited a spark of courage in the hearts of the soldiers. Barak led his men in a thunderous charge down the slopes of Mount Tabor. It was a move Sisera did not expect. The Canaanite general had positioned his forces for intimidation, assuming Israel would never dare engage in direct combat. But now, the unexpected assault threw his ranks into momentary confusion. As the battle raged, something miraculous began to unfold. Dark clouds gathered suddenly, and the heavens unleashed a torrential downpour. The rain turned the flat plains near the Kishon River into a muddy quagmire. Sisera's iron chariots, once symbols of invincibility, became liabilities. The wheels stuck fast in the mud, rendering them useless. Horses panicked, soldiers stumbled, and the once organized Canaanite forces fell into chaos. This divine intervention was no coincidence. The God of Israel, who controlled the elements, had turned nature itself into a weapon against Sisera. The Israelites, inspired by this act of God, fought with a ferocity they didn't know they possessed. Barak's forces descended like a storm, striking down Sisera's army with swift and decisive blows. As the Canaanite soldiers fell or fled, Sisera realized his doom. Abandoning his chariot, he fled on foot, desperate to escape the wrath of Israel and their God. This was the fulfillment of Deborah's prophecy. The mighty general, so confident in his strength, was reduced to a fugitive. The battle continued, but the tide had decisively turned. The Israelites, once trembling in fear under Jabin's oppressive rule, now stood victorious. Their shouts of triumph echoed across the battlefield as the army of Sisera was utterly destroyed. Not a man was left standing. Barak looked around at the scene of miraculous victory. The mud-soaked plains bore witness to God's deliverance. This was not a victory won by human strength or strategy. It was a divine act of salvation. Barak's faith, though hesitant at first, had been rewarded. From atop the battlefield, Deborah watched with a knowing expression. She had trusted in God's promise when others doubted. The battle at Mount Tabor was not just a military triumph. It was a testament to the power of obedience and faith. It was a reminder that no force, not even one equipped with the mightiest weapons of war, could stand against the Lord of hosts. And yet, the story was not over. Sisera's escape would lead to an unexpected and shocking conclusion, one that would cement this moment in Israel's history as a turning point orchestrated entirely by God. As the dust of battle settled and the Israelites rejoiced in their victory, Sisera, the formidable general of the Canaanite army, fled the chaos. His iron chariot, once a symbol of strength, lay abandoned in the mud as he sought refuge on foot. His pride had been shattered, his army annihilated. Exhausted and desperate, he made his way to the encampment of Heber the Canaanite, a supposed ally of King Jabin. Heber's wife, Jael, stood at the entrance of her tent as Sisera approached, his steps faltering. The sight of the once mighty general, now reduced to a fugitive, was both pitiful and dangerous. Jael greeted him warmly, masking any hint of unease. "Come, my lord," she said with a practiced calmness. "Turn aside, do not fear." Sisera, his body weary and his mind clouded with desperation, accepted her invitation. Jael led him into the tent, a place of supposed safety, and covered him with a blanket. Sisera's voice trembled as he spoke. "I am thirsty. Please give me some water." Jael did more than he asked. She brought him a skin of milk, soothing and nourishing, and offered it with care. As Sisera drank, he began to feel the weight of his exhaustion. "Stand at the door of the tent," he instructed her, his voice heavy with fatigue. "If anyone comes and asks you, 'Is anyone here?' say, 'No.'" His words carried the assumption that Jael, as a woman and a Canaanite, would be loyal to his cause. But Jael had other plans. As Sisera fell into a deep sleep, lulled by the milk and the security he believed he had found, she acted decisively. Quietly, she retrieved a tent peg and a hammer, tools of her daily life, but now weapons of divine justice. With unwavering resolve, she approached the sleeping general. In one swift and shocking motion, Jael drove the tent peg through Sisera's temple, pinning him to the ground. The mighty commander who had terrorized Israel for decades was dead, defeated not by an army, but by the hands of an unassuming woman. Barak, still pursuing Sisera, arrived at Jael's tent soon after. She stepped out to meet him, calm and composed. "Come," she said, "I will show you the man you are looking for." Barak followed her inside and found Sisera's lifeless body, the tent peg still driven through his skull. The prophecy of Deborah had been fulfilled in the most unexpected way. The honor of defeating Sisera had gone not to Barak, but to a woman. This act of courage cemented Jael's place in history. She was not an Israelite, nor was she a warrior, yet she played a pivotal role in God's deliverance of his people. Her story stands as a testament to how God uses the most unlikely individuals to accomplish his plans. The death of Sisera marked the beginning of the end for King Jabin's oppression. Israel, emboldened by their victory and the divine intervention that made it possible, rose up to overthrow their Canaanite overlords. Jael's boldness and Deborah's unwavering faith became symbols of a God who works through unexpected heroes to deliver his people. The battle was won, the enemy vanquished, and the oppressors overthrown. Israel had emerged victorious, not through their might, but through the hand of God working through his chosen vessels. As the dust settled, Deborah, the prophetess and judge of Israel, stood before her people to commemorate this historic moment. She raised her voice in a triumphant song, a hymn that would echo through generations, celebrating not only the victory, but the faithfulness of the Lord. Listen, O kings, give ear, O princes. I, even I, will sing to the Lord. I will sing praise to the Lord, the God of Israel. Her words soared, capturing the essence of a victory that was more than military, it was spiritual. Deborah's song was a tapestry of Israel's plight, their deliverance, and the unshakable power of God. She reminded the people of the darkness they had endured, a time when highways were abandoned and villages lay deserted. Fear had gripped the nation until Deborah, a mother in Israel, arose to lead. In the days of Shamgar, son of Anath, in the days of Jael, the highways were abandoned, and travelers took winding paths. Village life ceased in Israel, until I, Deborah, arose, a mother in Israel. Her song honored those who had answered the call to fight, particularly Barak and the tribes that rallied to Israel's defense. She praised their bravery, contrasting it with the shame of those who stayed behind. The imagery of her words brought the battle to life, recounting how the Lord himself had marched before them, causing the earth to quake and the heavens to pour rain. The swollen Kishon River had swept away Sisera's mighty chariots, proving that no earthly power could stand against the will of God. From the heavens the stars fought. From their courses they fought against Sisera. The river Kishon swept them away, that ancient river, the river Kishon. But Deborah's song was not just a celebration of victory, it was a call to remember. She extolled Jael, the woman whose courageous act had brought Sisera's tyranny to an end. Deborah did not shy away from the graphic reality of Jael's deed, using it as a stark reminder of how God's deliverance often comes in the most unexpected ways. Most blessed of women be Jael, the wife of Heber the Canaanite, most blessed of tent-dwelling women. Her hand reached for the tent peg, her right hand for the workman's hammer. She struck Sisera, she crushed his head, she shattered and pierced his temple. As the song drew to a close, Deborah painted a picture of the peace that now lay ahead. The oppressors had been defeated, and the people could once again thrive in their land. Yet, her final words carried a timeless warning. Let those who love the Lord rise like the sun in its strength, but let his enemies perish in darkness. Thus let all your enemies perish, O Lord, but let those who love him be like the sun when it rises in its might. Deborah's song became a lasting testimony of God's deliverance, a poetic reminder of his justice, and a call for unwavering faith in his power. For 40 years, Israel enjoyed peace, their land resting under the shadow of a victory wrought not by human hands alone, but by the hand of the Almighty. The story of Deborah is a profound reminder of what God can accomplish through those who trust in Him, no matter the odds. In a time when Israel was crippled by fear and oppression, Deborah rose with unwavering faith, a woman bold enough to lead in a male-dominated world. She was not a warrior in the traditional sense, yet her courage rallied an army. She didn't wield a sword, but her words pierced through doubt, inspiring others to action. Through her leadership, Barak found the strength to march into battle. Through her faith, the heavens moved, and God's power overwhelmed Sisera's mighty forces. Through her wisdom, the contributions of women like Jael became integral to Israel's victory. Deborah's story is not just one of deliverance, it's a testimony to the power of obedience to God's call and the incredible ways He uses those who say yes to Him. Deborah's life encourages us to rise above societal limitations, fears, or doubts. She teaches us that faith and courage, when paired with divine purpose, can bring light to the darkest times. Her legacy isn't just a victory song, it's a call for us to stand firm in our faith, to trust that God's plans always prevail, and to remember that deliverance often comes in the most unexpected ways. If this story inspired you, imagine the countless others waiting to be uncovered. Join us as we bring the Bible to life through engaging storytelling, fascinating details, and timeless truths. Subscribe to our channel for more captivating Bible stories, and don't forget to share this journey with others. Together, let's explore the incredible power of God's Word.